So in every human society there is a search for ultimate meaning, for the supreme cause, and what is the ultimate meaning of life. And in our Vedic scriptures, the Vedanta Sutra says explicitly that the purpose of human life is to look out for the supreme, to discover the supreme. The Tato Brahma Jigyasa. And this is something that is unique to human life. We won't see other species, animal species, looking for the ultimate goal. They're simply engaged in the daily activities. And because the ultimate is so inconceivable, that the most convenient way to think about it is to think that it is just formless and impersonal and just beyond the realm, beyond our current understanding, beyond our personal relationships, beyond everything. It's just an impersonal, formless mass. This is the most convenient way to look at the absolute truth, the easiest way. But this philosophy is using the material conception. Just like the material form, it has a beginning and has an end. This table, the form begins here and the form ends there. Right? So in our minds, we think of a form as having a limitation. It begins somewhere and ends somewhere. And personality, we think of personality as being separate. So if someone's a person, they're different from this other person. And so how can that be supreme if it doesn't include everyone, if it's two different things? So like this, our material minds cannot actually conceive of a spiritual personality with just the material conception. We come to the conception that the supreme is formless and impersonal. But the great acharyas and teachers of the bhakti line have revealed to us that actually the supreme is a person. Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchit Ananda Vigraha. That he is a person and he has a form, Vigraha, but it's eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. So it is a form, but it doesn't have a beginning and end. Like this table, the form has a begins here and it ends there. He has a form, but it has no beginning, no end. Spiritual form. And so some philosophers will say that just like we have eyes, but our eyes are limited. We can only see what's in this room. So the Supreme must have no eyes. It's not limited by this limited vision. But the Bhakti scriptures tell us that the Supreme has eyes and it can see everywhere. It can see every single thing, every person, every blade of grass in every universe simultaneously. So this is a far more advanced conception of the absolute truth than simply saying it doesn't have senses, it doesn't have eyes. So this one absolute truth, it expands to particular forms. Krishna, the Supreme, the all-attractive, he expands into different forms to take part in relationship with his loving devotees. And so therefore for the devotees that are getting realization of the Supreme Absolute Truth, the conception that the Supreme is impersonal is not attractive to them. They want to serve and they want to love the Lord in loving bhakti devotional service. Jai Sri Sri Radha Govardhana ki jai, Krishna Balaram Giraj Maharaj ki jai, Sri Sri Gauranitai ki jai. So when Krishna manifested himself, he showed this opulence. When the gopis wanted to dance with him, thousands and thousands of the cowherd damsels of Vrindavan, Krishna's consort, they all wanted to dance with him. in the Rasa Lila. So he manifested thousands and thousands and millions of forms to dance with every gopi individually, right? But every gopi thought that Krishna is dancing with me only, right? This is the opulence of the Absolute, the Supreme Absolute Truth, that is a person. And when Lord Brahma stole his cows and his friends, Krishna manifested them all as expansions of himself so perfectly that even the cows, the mothers of the calves, even the mothers, the elderly gopis, the mothers of the boys, for one whole year they couldn't understand that this was actually Krishna, this was not their own son. Just imagine the potency of the Supreme. So this is the first understanding. To understand the Supreme Absolute Truth, we have to accept Achintya Shakti. He's inconceivable. We cannot try to understand God by our limitations, by comparing him to what humans can see or what humans can do in this world. It's not possible to understand him without accepting that his energies are inconceivable. So Krishna's first expansion is as Lord Balaram. And it's said that Lord Balaram is non-different from Krishna, but his color is different. Krishna has a dark monsoon cloud color. Lord Balaram has the color of a fresh spring cloud, a white cloud. But there's a difference in terms of relationship. Just like at the start of the presentation, we had Lord Balaram, the Supreme Personality of Server to Godhead. So he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's acting as a servitor. And he's showing how to serve the Absolute Truth. And he also inspires and organizes others to serve Krishna. So therefore he's the original guru. So that is the place of a guru. A guru is somebody who engages others in serving God. The guru doesn't teach us how to become God. A real guru teaches us how to serve God. How to serve God. So Lord Balaram is also described as the original guru, Adi Guru. The one that teaches us how to serve God. And Lord Balaram has limitless service. It's said that Lord Balaram actually serves in all the 5 rasas. So first of all, he serves in neutrality. So Lord Balaram expands, Jai Sri Sri Radha Govindari Ki Jai. Jai Gita. So Lord Balaram, he expands, first of all, as in the rasa of neutrality, as Krishna's bed, as Krishna's clothes, as Krishna's jewelry, everything that serves the Lord. So when Krishna lies down on his bed, it's not like when we go to bed, we just, conk out ignorance. But when Krishna lies on his bed, which is an expansion of Lord Balaram, that's Lord Balaram's ecstatic service to Lord Krishna. It's a relationship. It's non-different from Balaram. It's completely conscious and an exchange of love between Krishna and Balaram. So Lord Balaram also takes part in servitude. He massages and fans Krishna. He also is in the friendship rasa. They're playing together in Vrindavan. Krishna and Balaram, little cowherd boys. And then he's also in the parental. He acts as an elder brother, like a parent figure, looking after Krishna, making sure he's okay. And he even expands in the conjugal rasa as Ananga Manjari, the little baby sister of Srimati Radharani. So Lord Balaram, he is always enthusiastic to serve in any way. He serves in all the ways possible. He is the ultimate servant and showing how to serve the Lord, how to attain bhakti. So when Krishna and Balaram were there in Vrindavan, they would play every day with the cowherd boys while they tended their cows. You can see a beautiful painting here. Srila Prabhupada called these paintings windows to the spiritual world. They give us some entrance into what actually is the spiritual world, the world of pure love, pure divine pastimes, eternal. And Lord Balaram and Krishna, during the day, they would play with all the cowherd boys, just have fun, super fun. And we can just imagine the most fun thing we've ever done with the most best friends we've ever had, and times that by, 10 million, and it never ends, and there's no problem at all with it. Like, we get some understanding of what this was like for the cowherd boys in Vrindavan. They would walk into the Vrindavan forest, garland themselves with flowers, saffron. Sometimes they were dancing and singing, sometimes wrestling with another. Sometimes Krishna and Balaram would dance, beautifully dance, while their friends would play different musical instruments. Sometimes Krishna and Balaram would play musical instruments while their friends danced. And this is the real entertainment, an exchange of love. They didn't need television, iPad, internet. They didn't need all these things because they were completely satisfied in the exchange of pure love between each other in their pastimes. All of these modern gadgets are simply a distraction, weapons of mass distraction, to distract us from actually the reality of emptiness of this modern way of life. But actually, Krishna Balaram's pastimes, they're showing us that that pure love that they have in the spiritual world, that is completely satisfying. And we can also take part in that. As we progress in bhakti, we find less and less need for these kinds of distractions. And we get more and more taste for serving Krishna. So one day, the cowherd boys were all having a great time, dancing and joking. One day, Krishna noticed something. And what it was that one of the cowherd boys, it's actually a lot more difficult to give class with like 100 people out there talking than I thought it would be. I'm used to giving Bhagavatam class, and it's like, I'm just sharing that with you, so like, I'm doing my best, but please bear with me. My mind is continually being taken to the very interesting conversations that are happening out there, I'm sure. So, back to the story. So there was one big demon called Pralamba. And Pralamba was a very tricky demon. And he knew that on this particular day, one cowherd boy was actually at home. His mother had kept him home so that he could do some work around the house. And this demon was very tricky, and he knew this cowherd boy is home for the day. And he made himself, through his mystic potency, he made himself exactly like that cowherd boy. And he came into all the association of the cowherd boys. But Krishna noticed. Krishna knows everything. So Krishna could tell immediately, but he didn't do anything. And we can see here that this demon thought he was a great trickster. He was trying to cheat Krishna. But Krishna is the greatest cheat. So he didn't let on, but he had a plan. He had a plan in his head, and he thought, all right, let's play a game where we can wrestle one another, and then we'll see how this demon comes out, because he could understand this demon was very serious and was actually trying to kill him and Balaram. So they played a game where they wrestled, and one team had to carry the winning team. And as you can see here on the left, this Pralamba, who was posing himself as a cowherd boy, he took Balaram on his shoulders, and he had to carry him to this banyan tree that was just a little ways away. But when he got to the banyan tree, he just kept going. And Lord Balaram thought, that's a little strange, what's happening? So he became heavier and heavier. And what happened is that the demon could feel Lord Balaram was like a mountain, like as heavy as a mountain on his back. And he couldn't keep up this disguise. He couldn't keep up this treachery that he was an innocent cowherd boy. And he actually retained his original form as Pralambasura, horrible demon. He had like a mountain he had a golden helmet and earrings. He looked like a cloud with lightning, eyes like blazing fire, and a mouth with sharp teeth. And Lord Balaram thought, whoa, what happened to this nice cowherd boy I was riding on? Suddenly, he's turned into this huge demon. So he took a little moment, then he comprised himself, and he could understand this demon was trying to kill him. So then he got his fist, and he just smashed that demon on the head. Very nice. And this Pralambasura, he was stricken like a snake with a smashed head. It's a little bit gory. I don't know if there's any kids in here, but maybe this is PG. I don't know what the rating is on this one. But like a snake with a smashed head, and blood poured from his mouth. Quite gruesome. All these details are given there in the Bhagavatam. And he made a tremendous sound as if a great hill was falling down. Imagine this big hill we have in the back here behind the temple. Imagine if that whole hill fell down. The whole valley would be shaking. That's what it was like when Pralambasura was falling down. All the cowherd boys, they rushed to the spot, and they saw that Lord Balaram had killed this terrible demon who was trying to kill them. And they were very happy. They praised him. And they showered flowers on the body of Balaram and offered their blessings and congratulations. So actually, our acharyas, and specifically Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gives an explanation about what are the inner meanings of the different demons that Krishna kills. And for Pralambasura, he says that it represents the anatta of the lusty desire and the desire for personal prestige, worship, honor, and position. And he also explains that there's different anartas. Anarta, so arta means wealth, something that's valuable, and anarta means something that's not valuable. So in our process of doing devotional service, anarta means those things that are not valuable, that we need to give up. So some of these anartas, they can be given up just by chanting, just by hearing, by reading the Shastra. One can give up these anartas, things like cruelty to other living entities, these more gross anartas. But this anarta of wanting prestige, wanting some high position and receiving worship and honor from other living entities, this can only be given up by the mercy of Guru. Because this demon is killed by Balaram, it signifies that only the Guru can remove this anarta. And it's described that the desire for position and personal honor and distinction, it's an enemy to bhakti, but it poses as a friend. It poses as a friend that the practitioner thinks that, oh, this is something very valuable. Yes, this is my friend, this will be good for me. But actually, it is a great enemy to bhakti, to the mood of service, to want to attain some external honor and so forth. So there's a concept called Prakrti and Purusha, which I'll just quickly touch on. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains all the different elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. And then he gives this verse: Apariyamitas tvanyam prakritim vedi me param. And he explains there that the living entity by nature is prakriti, is energy. Yeah. Right? Yeah, confirmed. It's the energy of the Lord. Right? And Lord Chaitanya, in his teaching to Sanatana Goswami, confirms this: Jiva Rasrupohoy Krishnera Nityadas, Krishnera Tatasta Shakti. The living entities, all of us, we're the energy of the Lord. We're meant to serve the Lord like the part serves the whole. But he explains in Gita in chapter 13, verse 22, that when we come in contact with the material energy, we take this position as Purusha. Although Krishna is the original Purusha. Purusham prakritisto hi bhunkte prakriti jangunan. And so when we say that the desire for honor and distinction and to feel oneself superior, etc., when we say that is a barrier or an obstacle in devotional service, right? It's not just an obstacle in devotional service, but it's actually fundamentally changes the position of the soul itself. There's two positions that Krishna is explaining. We can either be the servant of the Lord, or we can try to be the master, the Purusha, Prakriti or Purusha. And if we think that we are superior in any way, if we think that, and it doesn't matter even why we think we're superior, doesn't even matter. It might be that we think we have more money, we have more dress sense, we sing nicer, we're married and making so much money, or we're a brahmachari, we're so renounced. It doesn't matter why we're thinking we're in the superior position to someone else. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that we take that superior position in our minds. We're thinking that. That's our sambandha. So whenever we're thinking that, we're in the conditioned column. Conditioned. We're thinking we're the enjoyer, we're the superior person. Right? One of the American presidents, I think it was Jefferson, said, I see every person as my superior in that I can learn something from them. So he understood this. And then whenever we feel like we are inferior, then we're in our constitutional position. Of course, it's not a psychological problem. No, it's the most sane position, actually. Recently with my 5-year-old daughter, she came home from school and said that this other person, I'm so much better at her than this. Oh, I've only had one 5-year-old daughter, don't I? So I've kind of given it away there. She's on the treasure hunt, it's fine. As long as nobody here says it, okay? Just between you and me. Just between us. But I said to her, is there something that person is better than you at? And she thought and said, oh yeah, she had to think for a while, but we got there. So I said to her this same simple point. If we see what somebody else is better than us at, then we see they're superior, just like Jefferson, all of these cultured people, even not in Vedic society, they understand this one. And whenever we pick out the one thing that we are better, because everybody's better at something, right? The mosquitoes are better at flying than we are, right? So the mosquito's thinking, oh, I'm so advanced, look how I can fly. These humans, all they can do is walk around. Oh, I'm so advanced, right? He's got this superior mentality. He's thinking, I am the enjoyer of this mature world. So like that, this desire for superiority, honor, prestige, to be held up in some position. This is represented by Pralamba. And by the mercy of Lord Balaram, we can overcome this. And the reason is we need Guru. The reason we need Guru is that this being honored, being given some position, some whatever, that's very intoxicating for the conditioned soul. It's very intoxicating. And just like Pralamba was actually pretending, he was cheating, he was being as if he was some very wonderful cowherd boy doing devotional service. Just like he was pretending that, the desire for honor, prestige is very difficult to see. The conditioned soul thinks that it's actually a desire for bhakti. But the Guru, because he's looking after the disciple and he's engaging the disciple in service, then very quickly he can see, or she can see, and can correct that mentality. So this is why it's very, very important that we maintain the association of devotees who are seriously practicing and can be our gurus. And just like here we have so many types of gurus, Lord Chaitanya said, Yare deke tarika, whoever you meet and tell them about Krishna and you become a guru. That's the essence of what a guru is, right? And there can be initiating, instructing, one who shows us the path. There's different kinds of gurus. And so therefore it's very important, if we don't have that association of practicing devotees who can, even sometimes just by how they look at us, we're acting a certain way and they just look at us a certain way and we go, oh, okay, I'm kind of, my consciousness is not quite on the ball here. But if we don't have that association, then very easily we can fall to this Pralambasura type of mentality. So, we'll tell one more pastime of Krishna and Balaram, and this happened when Balaram was in Krishna and Balaram were in Dvaraka. When Lord Balaram heard about the coming battle of Kurukshetra, he was somewhat torn. He was somewhat conflicted. And the reason being, as we know, he was the guru. He was the instructor of Duryodhana, one of the main people on the other side. And of course, he was also the great well-wisher of the Pandavas, being Krishna's best friend Arjuna and all of the Pandavas. So he tried to stop the war. He tried to mediate. He did some mediation, but it didn't work, right? It's like sometimes we may try to mediate, especially if we have young children. We may try to mediate. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But in any case, mediation can be a tricky thing to do. When people really want to fight, and this is the case here. The two parties really wanted to fight. Balaram couldn't stop the fighting. So he went on a pilgrimage just to not become involved. And he went all over India. He went all the way to Kanyakumari in the south. All over India he went. And one of the places he visited was Naimisaranya. And at that time the sages were performing a great sacrifice. And they were giving all the instructions to try to offset the age of Kali. And who knows, there's one very famous book that's right here in our temple room that was actually spoken at this very assembly. Does anybody know what that book is? Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Yes, thank you. So the Srimad Bhagavatam and many other Puranas you can read were spoken at this assembly in Naimisaranya, which is still existing in India. It's about 50 kilometers from Lucknow. And when Lord Balaram entered the assembly, everybody stood up out of respect. They could immediately see the Supreme Personality of Godhead has come into this assembly, and they stood up and they offered their respects to him. And everybody stood up, and the elder sages, they gave blessings to Lord Balaram. The other sages, they gave their obeisances and glorified him. But one person didn't stand up, and that was Romaharsana Suta, who was on the Vyasasan, who was talking, who was speaking. Right? So you can just imagine if, by some miracle, Lord Balaram walked into the assembly here, and if the person speaking on the Vyasasan thought, I'm on the Vyasasan, I don't get up for anybody. Everybody would think, what? That's Lord Balaram, right? That's exactly what happened, right? And so this Romaharsana Suta, he didn't get up. He thought, I'm on the Vyasasan, I don't have to get up for anyone, right? But actually, he failed to show respect, and Lord Balaram pointed it out that actually he wasn't born in a very cultured family, put it that way. He wasn't born in a very cultured Brahminical family. And this is a good lesson that Krishna says, right? Krishna, Chaturvanya Maya Shustam Guna Karma Vibhagasha, that these different Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, they're according to the qualities of the person, they're according to the work they do. They're not according to birth. It's not just by birth you are. So he didn't have a great birth, but he was very learned. He was actually a direct disciple of Vyasadeva. So he was given the seat to explain all the Puranas. But as soon as he exhibited that actually he wasn't cultured, he hadn't actually imbibed the spiritual culture of respect and how to associate with devotees, how to associate with seniors. He hadn't imbibed that. Therefore, Lord Balaram at that point, he pointed it out. Oh, you have a low birth, and just see now it's coming out. And Lord Balaram wanted to establish that doesn't matter how learned we become, doesn't matter how many scriptures we can quote, how many things we can cite, but if we don't have the internal culture, if we don't have proper behavior, become a gentle disciple, a gentleman, gentle lady, then all that learning is useless. Lord Balaram is showing that here. And he just simply took one, first of all, what he said that this so-called Brahmana, this teacher, so-called teacher, he is speaking all these words, but they're just like the jewel on the head of a snake, right? So if a snake has a jewel, it doesn't matter, it's still a snake. So they're very learned words, but he didn't have the proper culture, the proper character. And he said that all of these words he's speaking, all of these shlokas he's quoting, are just like the clothes of an actor. Amazing example he gave. Just like an actor puts on certain clothes and plays a part, right, in the movies or in the theatre. But then when the show's over, they take that off and then they're their normal self again, right? So he said that your words and all these slokas you're quoting are just like the clothes of an actor. They're not real. They don't actually go to the heart. You don't actually embody that, what you're speaking. And he also said that the lines you're reading, it's like an actor reading lines. Very heavy, very insightful. And to establish real religious principles for all time, he took a kusha grass, a little piece of grass, and he tapped him on the head, and that was the end of his life. So all the sages, they were all kind of astonished. You know, a minute before, they're all sitting there hearing from this very learned Romaharsana Suta, and they said, well, my Lord, we actually just gave him a benediction for long life. So there's another little lesson there, right? If you offend the Lord or offend the devotees, it doesn't matter how many material benedictions you've got from great sages, right? Thousands of great sages had all got together and given him a benediction to live a long life. But in one offense to Lord Balaram, his life ended immediately. So Lord Balaram was very apologetic and he said, well, okay, maybe I've overstepped that. I don't want to go against the Brahmanas, to show the example of cooperating with the great sages and the Brahmanas. He said, well, do you want me to bring him back to life? And the sages said, well, we actually don't want to go against what you've done because you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Your will is all good for everyone. Your will is supreme. We don't want to go against that. So is there some other arrangement? And Lord Balaram said, well, the son is non-different from the father. So he brought his son, Ugra Shrava, Suta Goswami, and he installed him on the Vyasasana, and he gave him the benediction for long life that his father had. So we're almost finished, just wrapping up now. But the lessons from this pastime are that when we fail to respect seniors, when we fail to respect elevated spiritual personalities, the practical effect is that we lose our service. Just imagine what happened to Romaharsana Suta. By his offense, he was given the service of explaining all the Puranas. It would have been his name there. It would have been Romaharsana Uchu instead of Sri Suta Uchu. It would have been his name. He would have done that incredible service to the Lord. Hundreds of years speaking all the Puranas, giving that incredible service to the Lord. And he would have been recognized for that. And materially, he would have had a long life. So spiritually, he lost his service, and materially, he lost his life. So this is the tragic consequence of disrespecting and causing offenses to esteemed, spiritual personalities, or in fact anyone. But just the offense gets more if the person is more. And so an offense to Balaram is, instant, yeah. So we have to be very careful when we're taking any position of responsibility, and we all get some position of responsibility in different ways. We may be a parent, we may get some position in the society, some designation. We have to always be careful that we're always ready to get off the Vyasasana and pay obeisance, or get out of our position that we've taken and offer our respects to the Lord, because everything is coming from Him. Any mercy that, any ability that we can do is only coming through us. It's not coming from us. And we can immediately see if our mentality goes that, yes, we are the one doing it, immediately that mercy goes, right? Immediately we lose that empowerment. And interestingly, Balaram called him very sinful. He was following all the regulated principles. But he said, you are so sinful. And why you're sinful is because you're lecturing all these things, but your culture, your qualification is not correct, right? And just to finish with this pastime is that the next person, his son, Suta Goswami, we can read in Bhagavatam, right? It's there, Suta Goswami, he's the one who spoke it. And in the verse, Srimad Bhagavatam verse 118, so you can see it's only the 8th verse. And in fact, there's a couple of verses before that. So literally the 6th or 7th verse of the entire Bhagavatam is glorifying Suta Goswami for being a gentle disciple, for having a culture of respect to his seniors, respect to his spiritual authorities, the ones who are giving him shelter and blessings. The very beginning of Bhagavatam points this out. You can read here. Because you are submissive, your spiritual masters have endowed you with all of the favors bestowed upon a gentle disciple. Therefore, you can tell us all that you have learned from them. So we have finished the time for class. And thank you very much for joining in the class. And I hope that you have gained some interesting pastimes to take home, and some interesting lessons to take home and meditate on about the mercy of Lord Balaram and how he's there to bless us all and correct us all and help us to serve the Supreme Lord Krishna in pure, divine, ecstatic love. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.